big thing back then, and I read every book I could at the library about mail order. And one of the tenets that they said over and over again, which is a very powerful lesson even to today, is test, test, test. Test everything. Try little variations. Test and learn. Make some small change. See what happens. And I tested everything. I tested the size of my ads. I tested the wording of my ads. I tested the color of the envelopes I sent back out. I tested the style of handwriting. I used to calligraphy some of the envelopes and handprint some of the others and typewrite some of the others. I tried everything just to try and get the best performance. And I saw huge differences. Just keeping little track of things on a little paper spreadsheet about what worked and what didn't. And that instilled a very early training for me of testing every variable. Really, really valuable for me even to today. So solar devices led me to college. I put this on my college application. I had made enough money. I sold 10,000 kits and plans at $4 each, so it actually paid my way through the first few years of college. It probably even got me accepted to college because I wrote about that in my application. But then in college, I got bitten by the audiophile bug because there was some senior in my dorm that had these incredible speakers that I couldn't afford. But there was a student shop on campus, and I knew woodworking, and someone said, why don't you go use the student shop? You can build your own speakers. So I started learning how to make speakers, and I started making them for friends on campus, and making them for all the professors on campus, and then started selling them in the Pasadena area, and I made a whole business making these high-end audio loudspeakers. And school even helped me get a patent on one of my speaker designs back then, and that helped me really grow my business. I took a year off between my sophomore and junior year to make enough money to pay for my junior and senior year, and this little business called GNP Loudspeakers for Gross National Products was the business that I used to pretty much make my way all the way through college until I graduated. The exact month that I graduated in 1981 was the month that the IBM PC came out. I went down to my Computerland store in Pasadena and got a first PC. This PC for $5,000 had 2 floppy drives, a green monochrome monitor with 80 characters by 25, no hard disk. Hard disk hadn't even been invented yet. And I really was so excited just to get a PC to begin to computerize my business. I wanted to make better loudspeakers. I wanted to keep track of my accounting, all my bookkeeping, keep track of all my orders. And I was really excited what the PC could bring. And I remember getting that first one and how exciting it was, even though it was pretty unpowerful back then. I started writing some software to put accounting practices into my business, and we called it CPA+. And then I started using Lotus 1-2-3 when it came out, which was really exciting. VisiCalc was the first spreadsheet, but then Lotus really took off on the IBM platform, and I made a natural language program to make it easier to use Lotus 1-2-3. So I started a separate business upstairs from my speaker business where we sold this software. I came to Las Vegas at the Comdex show in 1984, and someone from Lotus saw it and took it back and said, you should take a look at this company. We heard from the CEO of Lotus. We flew out to Boston and showed it to them, and they acquired our company for $10 million. It was unbelievable. Really, really unbelievable. So that was my first real success at intellectual property. The previous business I told you, I was working with my hands. This was my first chance at really working with my mind, really trying to take ideas and turn ideas into more value. And that was intoxicating. That was so exciting to do that. To be able to use your brain power to take something of value X and turn it into value Y of even more was really, really exciting, and is the foundation pretty much of all entrepreneurship. So I got my first taste of that. I moved to Boston to work for Lotus. It was very, very exciting. Lotus was the biggest software company in the world at that time, even bigger than Microsoft. Actually, Microsoft wasn't even public yet at that time. Lotus was one of the first billion-dollar software companies. I learned everything about the software business there. I signed a 1-year contract, but I stayed there for 6.5 years. I loved it there. I learned so much from Lotus, and I probably would have never left had my son not started kindergarten. In 1991, my youngest son, 5 years old, at the time, I dropped him off on the playground. I don't know if you remember this with your children, but I remember waving goodbye to him on the playground and just thinking, wow, I'm turning him over to the school system. I wonder if he will fall in love with learning like I did. I had that magical 4th grade teacher. I wonder who's his teacher that will inspire him. I hope he has that. But I thought, maybe software can do that. There was educational software at that time, but it was all skill and drill software. It was all practice. It was all learn math problems faster, or read a rabbit, learn the basics of syllables and pronunciation. But there was nothing to make you fall in love with learning, and that's what I wanted to do. So I left Lotus and started a company called Knowledge Venture in 1991. And we really had this dream of really having aha moments go on in children's mind. In particular, I wanted to do it for my son David, but I wanted to do it for all children of his generation. So we started Knowledge Venture. We made a whole range of products. We made space adventure and science adventure. We actually worked with Buzz Aldrin on space adventure. We made science adventure with Isaac Asimov. We made 3D body adventure. We made dinosaur adventure. We made all these products. We were having some success. It was very challenging. I'm going to tell you a very challenging story we had a little bit later at Knowledge Venture as one of my lessons. But we grew this business to be the #3 educational software company, right behind Broderbund and Learning Company. And we sold the company for $90 million in 1995. Really, really fantastic experience, taking something that I was so passionate about that I wasn't even doing it to build an exit. I was doing it because I cared about my son, I cared about his generation, and it just led to something that was very, very successful. In 1995, right when I sold Knowledge Venture, Netscape had its IPO. And it was a really magical moment for many people. It was a really magical moment for me, showing the power of the internet in the following way. There were 30 million global internet users. Now, it sounds funny to hear that number now. It sounds so small. But 30 million sounded so large to me back then. 30 million users that you could communicate with directly. And I'll tell you why I was so excited about that. At Knowledge Adventure, we made products. We would take the products after months of working on them and send them to Sony to duplicate the CD-ROMs. Sony would duplicate 10,000 CD-ROMs. We would then take them and send them to distributors. Distributors would then try and get them into stores. Egghead, CompUSA, all the Fry's, all the different stores that sold CD-ROM software. There were months and months between when we made a product and finished it and when we finally heard back from a customer. And very few customers we heard back from. We had to go put bribery inside the box to get people to contact us. We'd have business reply cards in there. We had postage stamps on there. I even tested, again, back to my test. We tested different stamps, like love stamps worked a little bit better than American flag stamps to get people to send back their registration cards. But still we only got 2% back. So 98% of our customers never talked to us. Here with the internet, you could talk to every one of them. There was no one in between us anymore and our customer. It was one-to-one. I was so excited about that. And I had all these different ideas for businesses I wanted to start, but no way to do all of them. And that's what led me to think of starting Idea Lab. I wasn't sure it would work. I wanted to start something where we could have a technology incubator where we could take all these ideas and maybe run them in parallel. As opposed to being a serial entrepreneur, I wanted to be a parallel entrepreneur and try multiple things under one roof with shared resources and try and bring best practices to all of this. Mostly, I wanted to unlock human potential. I learned something at both the companies I started earlier, which was giving large equity stakes to employees and partners in the company really unlocked human potential. Think about in each of your businesses, as an owner, how you think about things differently than as an employee would think. Well, even if someone has 1% of the company, they begin thinking like an owner. I really wanted to start an enterprise where many companies could each give lots and lots of people 1% of a company. And that would unlock a whole bunch of potential because everybody would be thinking like owners. So that was my premise in starting Idea Lab. I didn't know if it was going to work.